All right, let's talk about VPNs. We're going to cut through all the marketing hype to figure out how you can really choose one that's right for you. Now, this isn't going to be another top 5 list or a brand review. Nope. Instead, we're going to build a mental framework. Think of it as an engineer's guide, so you can look at any VPN provider and decide for yourself based on what actually matters. Let's get into it.
You know the ads I'm talking about. They're everywhere, right? Plastered all over the internet, sponsoring your favorite creators, and they all make these massive claims. They sell you this idea of a digital invisibility cloak, of total, absolute anonymity. It's a really powerful story, but
It's just a story. The whole premise is fundamentally wrong, because that's just not how the internet works. It's not how networks are built. Anonymity isn't some subscription you can just buy for a few bucks a month. So if a VPN isn't an invisibility cloak, then what in the world is it?
Okay, this is the single most important concept to grasp. A VPN is not about becoming a ghost online. It's about a simple transfer of trust. See, normally, your internet service provider, Comcast, AT&T, whoever sends you a bill every month, they can see every single website you visit. When you turn on a VPN, you're just shifting that trust. You're taking it away from the ISP you're forced to use and handing it over to a VPN provider that you get to choose. That's it. That's the trade-off. No magic, just a trust shift.
So, before we even start comparing features or looking at prices, we have to begin with the one question that matters more than anything else. And it's not about speed or how many servers they have, it's about you. It's about figuring out your personal threat model.
This right here, this is the question that changes everything. What are you actually trying to accomplish? Are you just a regular person trying to stop your ISP from selling your data? Are you trying to stay safe on the sketchy Wi-Fi at a coffee shop? Or are you maybe a journalist in a dangerous place trying to protect your sources? Your answer to this question dictates what you should actually be looking for.
And this really lays out the boundaries. On the one hand, yeah, a VPN is a great tool for hiding your traffic from your ISP or from some hacker at the airport, for sure. But on the other hand, if your computer already has malware on it, a VPN is totally useless. It's not going to stop apps on your phone from tracking you. It won't stop a technique called browser fingerprinting, which can identify you just based on your browser setup. And let's be absolutely crystal clear. If you are up against a government, a state-level actor, a commercial VPN is not the tool you need. Period. Okay, now that we've got our heads straight about trust and threat models, it's time to step into the buzzword gauntlet. We're going to take the biggest, splashiest marketing claims you see in every VPN ad and see how they hold up to engineering reality.
Ah, yes, the big one. This is the absolute cornerstone of pretty much every VPN marketing campaign out there. We have a strict no-logs policy, they scream it from their homepages. It's supposed to make you feel all warm and fuzzy, like your secrets are safe.
But here's the reality check. A policy is just a promise. And you know what? Promises can be broken, especially when a government shows up with a court order. See, real security isn't built on promises, it's built on technical limitations. A true no-logs provider is one who has built their systems so that it's physically impossible to log your data. It's not about them not wanting to log, it's about them not being able to. So this is the killer question you need to be asking. Don't ask, do you keep logs? Ask, how is logging technically prevented? The answer you want to hear involves stuff like RAM-only servers. See, when a server has no hard drives, there's nowhere to permanently store data. As soon as that server reboots, everything in its memory, the RAM, is gone forever. That's an engineering solution, not a pinky promise.
all right, next up in the gauntlet, obfuscation. It just sounds so cool and technical, doesn't it? They market it like it's some kind of extra stealth mode that makes you even more invisible online. But what does it actually do? The reality, it's a little more mundane. Obfuscation is basically just camouflage for your internet traffic. All it does is make your encrypted VPN connection look like normal, boring web browsing. This is really useful for fooling automated systems that try to block VPNs, like at your office or in a country with heavy censorship. But here's the key. It hides the fact that you're using a VPN from a simple filter. It does not hide your activity from a determined, sophisticated adversary. It's for censorship, not privacy.
Now this one just seems like common sense. If one layer of security is good, then 2 layers must be twice as good, right? Double VPN routes your traffic through 2 separate VPN servers. The marketing wants you to believe this makes you doubly secure, doubly anonymous. Yeah, not so fast. Let's break this down. First, in almost all of these services, both servers are owned by the same company. so you're not really adding another party. Second, an adversary can just watch the traffic. They see a certain amount of data go into server A at one time, and then they see the same amount of data come out of server B a few milliseconds later. That's called traffic correlation, and double VPN does nothing to stop it. What it does do, guaranteed, is slow your internet down and make things more complicated than they need to be.
Ah, the 14 eyes. This has to be one of the most common and, honestly, most misunderstood talking points in the whole VPN world. The ads paint this picture of a shadowy group of countries all spying on each other. And they promise that if your VPN is based in, say, Panama, you're totally safe. This slide puts that whole debate into perspective. The 14 Eyes Alliance is real. In jurisdiction, the country a VPN is based in, that defines who can legally demand data from them. But the architecture, how the system is actually built, that defines if there is any data to get in the first place. You can't hand over logs that were never created. A well-architected VPN in a 14 Eyes country is infinitely safer than a badly architected one in a so-called privacy haven.
Okay, let's talk about something that almost every single VPN review just completely ignores. It's a massive blind spot that can undo all the other privacy protections we've just been talking about. And that's how you actually pay for the service.
Just think about this chain of events. You do all your research, you find a great VPN with a proven no-logs architecture. Fantastic. And then you pay for it with your credit card. Boom. Instantly, your real name, your real address, they are now directly and permanently linked to your VPN account. That whole no-logs promise about your traffic is now seriously undermined because your actual identity is tied to the service.
So, does this matter for everyone? Let's go back to our threat model. Honestly, for most people just trying to keep their ISP out of their business, this probably isn't a deal breaker. But if you're a journalist or an activist or anyone whose safety depends on anonymity, then yes, this is absolutely critical. And that's why the really serious privacy providers offer anonymous payment options, like letting you mail them cash or use privacy coins or even buy gift cards in a store.
Okay, so we've torn down all the marketing hype. Now let's build it back up into a solid, practical guide. How should someone who thinks like an engineer actually go about choosing a VPN? Well, it's not about looking for a flag on a map. It's about looking for proof.
In this world, trust is not earned with flashy websites. It's earned through radical transparency. A provider that takes this seriously will voluntarily open themselves up to scrutiny. That means paying for independent security audits and publishing the full reports, not just the highlights. It means putting out regular transparency reports showing any government data requests they get. It means having clear technical documents that explain how everything works, and using modern, open-source protocols like WireGuard. If there's no audit, there's no trust. Simple as that.
And this brings us to the final, most uncomfortable truth of all. Even if you find the perfect, audited, RAM-only, no-logs VPN that you paid for by mailing cash in an envelope, you are still not invisible. A VPN encrypts the pipe, the content of your traffic. It does not erase your behavior. The apps on your phone are still tracking you. The accounts you log into are still connecting the dots. Even the timing of when you go online leaks valuable metadata. A VPN is just one tool in a much bigger toolkit.
So let's wrap this all up into your new checklist. The next time you're looking at a VPN, forget the marketing and just ask these 4 questions. Number 1, architecture. Can it physically log you? Look for engineering, not promises. Number 2, transparency. Can you verify what they're saying? Demand the audits. Number 3, payment model. Is your real identity going to be linked to this thing? And finally, number 4, threat model. Is this even the right tool for what you're trying to protect yourself from?
Because that is what this all boils down to. If a VPN's biggest selling point is where it's located, or some vague promise about military-grade encryption, you should probably just close the tab. Real, meaningful security is a product of thoughtful engineering. It is about technical constraints, it's about public verification, and it's about having a clear-eyed view of what a tool can and, just as importantly, what it cannot do. It is not about marketing slogans, and it is not about a flag on a map. It's about the code.